So thank you all for joining us. My name is Nikki, and I am the Director of Training and Get Outdoors PA with the Pennsylvania Recreation and Park Society. This is our second Aquatics Roundtable. We've done a series of roundtables with summer camp programs and events, urban recreation, therapeutic recreation, just to name a few. We know aquatics is a very hot topic right now, and Todd Roth, who is the aquatic supervisor with Center Region Parks and Recreation, and Kristen Ziegler, I'm going to unmute you both as soon as, there we go, as soon as my computer decides to work, are going to help facilitate the roundtable today. We are recording this event, so we will let you have access to this after the event, as well as the group chat. We kind of take that, clean it up a little bit, and we will put that on our website. If you choose to put your name and email address in the chat box, we will email it to you as well, so you all have it directly in your email boxes. I'm going to say within a week of this roundtable, because we have a pretty good number of people. We're at 84 right now, which I'd like to say is our highest. And I'm going to say thanks to Kristen for that, because we have people joining us from outside of Pennsylvania. So it's really exciting. You all are muted right now. So if at any point you want to speak up, please unmute yourself and do so to provide your feedback or to answer a question. You can always note it in the chat box as well, and either Todd, Kristen, or myself will bring that to the attention. We can't always keep up with everything noted in the chat box, so if there is a question we miss, please just note it again, and we'll try to make sure that we catch up with that. So at this point, I'm just going to turn it over to Todd and Kristen, and we're going to go from there. So thank you all again for joining us. We're excited to have everyone.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining us. So I gave my middle daughter an assignment. My oldest one cut my hair. That was her assignment. So I would have at least, I wasn't sporting the shaggy rug for this, but my middle daughter had the assignment. She had to come up with a joke or two that I could share at the beginning to start things off on a good note. She said, well, you know, yesterday was 420 Day. So she said, why does Snoop Dogg need an umbrella? Faux drizzle. All right, that. The other one, she said, I'm reading a horror story in Braille, and I think something really bad's about to happen. I can just feel it. Anyways, we are, most of the meeting, I think we're going to end up talking about COVID-19. I have a whole list of things, procedures, maintenance, programming, lifeguard training, lifeguard hiring, certification extensions, cancellations, refunds, and all that good stuff. And I would like to hear, you know, if people have ideas or suggestions on things that they've seen. Obviously, you know, this Zoom meeting is sponsored by the Pennsylvania Parks and Rec Society, so a lot of what we might talk about is just going to be under what Pennsylvania's guidelines are, but if any of you are joining from other states, we'd welcome you to share what you have going on as well. If we get through all the COVID stuff, I do have a list of other aquatics topics we can talk about, everything from swim tests, life jackets, roving guards, zone charts, sunscreen for staff, admission prices, and all that good stuff. So, but just to start with, so I know we're all looking at what the new normal is going to look like if and when we open up. But before that, let's talk a little bit about swimming pool maintenance. All of us, I think, are going to be looking at a delayed opening. The long-term maintenance costs if you do nothing all summer, and all your pumps sit, all your, you know, your pool shell sits, and the algae grows and all that. Is there a maintenance risk of not doing anything all year? I don't know if that was kind of our thought, was we didn't want to let everything sit and not operate it. We said, whether anybody's going to swim or not, we're going to at least run the pumps and get some chlorine in there and make sure we don't have trees growing in the pool in 2021.
Well, just from the CPO standpoint of, I'm Patty, I'm from Cleveland. Thanks for letting me join your webcast today. That operating an outdoor pool with the chlorine and all of that costs more in a season than having an indoor pool for a whole season. So would the cost benefit of keeping the pool open and putting the amount of chlorine in and all that be as beneficial? That being said, you're right about letting your pump. We have an indoor facility and we are actually running our pumps, even our spa and hot tub, with no heater, of course, but just to keep the water flowing through the pumps and all of that.
Good.
Okay, I'll try again. I agree with you, Todd. We are doing exactly what you said. We are running everything. We've already drained our pool from the winter. We are in the process of even pressure washing we have a liner. It's an outdoor pool. We're pressure washing every inch of that now, cleaning it just like we would normally. And hopefully in another week here or so, we're going to fill that up, turn everything on, make sure it runs, and let it run for a few weeks. Whether we open or not this year so far, that hasn't been decided. My council and mayor has asked me to do a report for revenue and expenses of what I think can project. And I've done that already. So hopefully we'll be able to discuss that more at length in the next week or so. And I think that's my biggest reason for joining all of you today. And I'm from Greensburg, PA, that's near Pittsburgh. I really want to know how many of you are looking to open and how many of you are looking to delay and how many of you are planning to not open at all. That's really where I'm looking for some help today.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. If those of you open your chat window, if those of you that don't have it open yet, there's a lot of people responding to this on the chat, which is good. And I think there may be some side discussions going on, which is absolutely fine. Like Nikki said, we'll add all this to what we have going on. So, but that's good to see too. So I know there's a lot of facilities that are not opening at all. Tentatively looking at the July 1st opening date. And then we may stay open a little later into the winter, in fall, I should say, maybe just on weekends. We still don't know what that looks like. But there's a lot that is going to go on with that. So next topic, is anybody doing virtual lifeguard training or virtual in-service training for your guards?
Hey, Todd, we're discussing that right now with an instructor that we have online on how we're going to be able to do the lifeguard trainings. A lot of it now is blended learning, so that helps a little bit. It's just a matter of getting the pool portion done. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. We are looking here. I'm Warrington, right outside of Philly. We're probably looking for more guidance probably by the end of this week on when we're doing. As I put in the chat, we're looking at, we're targeting a June 13th opening, which would have been when schools got out normally. And we're going to see how that plays out. We're kind of at this point bagging a Memorial Day opening just for the safety. So yeah, I'm going to be discussing with the Red Cross lifeguard instructor on how we could possibly do a virtual lifeguard training. Hope that helps.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. I did see there are some people, the blended learning helps a lot because the kids can do a lot of their coursework online to begin with. And then I have instructors that are starting to set up things like they'll do the blended learning and then they'll do some additional classroom stuff online. And then when they actually set up to teach the class, just things like having each student have their own check-in. So that they don't have to completely disinfect mannequins in between. Now, obviously for some of us, if we only have or 5 mannequins, it's going to be a much smaller class. They're also talked about what if you have your lifeguard candidates bring family members to rescue, so that they're rescuing people that they're spending time in their own house with. And then I've seen some instructors that are planning to use submersible mannequins to do some of the in-water rescues too. So it's part of this is going to be, how do you maintain good social distancing and good safe practices while you're teaching through the class? Anyone else have anything to add about lifeguard training or possibilities coming up here?
Todd?
Moving forward? Yeah.
Todd, I wanted to talk. This is Dan Hendy from PRPS. Nikki's having technical difficulties, so I'm sort of filling in for her. I just did a quick poll of folks, and 27% feel like they are going to open their pools this year. 3% are no. 23% are delayed openings, and 47% are still not sure what's going to happen with their pools right now this year. So that's one question for a poll for you. Also, there's I'm happy to say we hit 100 folks on this Zoom meeting. We have reached our capacity, which is the first time for us. So thank you everyone for attending. Many questions here on the chat box. As you can see, you might want to take a look at that during the course of your talk there, Todd and Christian. That's it.
Yep. I'm trying to keep up with it.
I hope I gave you a little cover there.
The Red Cross originally had offered a 90-day extension on all certifications, and it looks like they're pushing that to 100 days extension on all certifications now. The nice thing is you really don't have to worry as much about recertifying staff before you reopen, but it would just be certifying new staff that need it. So Pennsylvania, there is a Red Cross Zoom meeting webinar at 11 o'clock today. I know New Jersey Aquatics has an 11 o'clock webinar today too. So either way, we'll try to wrap things up here before 11. So if people want to jump onto other calls, they can. But so all right, there's a lot of really good stuff coming in through the chat now about opening, not opening. There's some Zoom stuff, some stuff going on about Zoom training and lifeguarding stuff too.
So, Todd, if anybody remembers the direct links from the Red Cross, that was previous to what we're doing now. There was a list of direct links. I have those saved. They still work. So I've used the lifeguarding class as an in-service for my guards while we're at home. I was able to secure 8 hours of pay for them to take the online portion of the class. But if you're planning on, doing that as part of your training for guards who don't need to be recertified, but who are, who you need to go through the skills with, you can still offer that entire class without having to sign up, make a blended learning class and sign up for it. So if anybody wants that, I guess, if I type in my email address, I can forward it to them.
Or if you can just type in the link or cut and paste the link into the chat, we will be sharing the chat box with everyone at the end of this program.
I think I could probably do that. If I can work on my computer while I'm doing this.
Thanks, Patty. If I recall, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, the old links for the blended learning classes will be available through the Red Cross through the fall. I was setting up a class earlier this spring, and one of the service techs at the Red Cross said those links, the older links, will be available through the fall. Hopefully you can use them for training or if you want to do that. They still want you to do the new procedures for setting up blended learning with Red Cross, which has changed for this year. So stay up on that if you can. So question for you, for everyone, if and when we're able to reopen, we need to obviously follow governmental guidelines for everything, but what do people think it looks like in terms of whether it's social distancing? What are we looking at for convection of deck chairs? I mean, part of me thinks about when I go to the grocery store now, they've got somebody sanitized shopping carts in between. Are we going to have dedicated staff just to walk around and sanitize lounge chairs as soon as people leave? Do we have extra sanitation in the locker rooms, bathrooms, at the front desk? Does anybody have any ideas or thoughts on that?
I got it. We're working with our police department right now. They've purchased a one of those ionizer disinfectant guns. They've been using it on their vehicles and stuff. So we're going to work with them for the restrooms anyway. It's pretty simple. It doesn't take a lot of time, and maybe do every morning go in and mist all the restrooms and high contact areas. As far as lounge chairs and stuff, we didn't really go that far yet, but the positive is it's out in the sun. UV rays will help a little bit, but that one's going to be tougher as people are there all day. You don't know when they actually leave. You don't want to be jumping right on someone as soon as they step up to go to the bathroom or something, and then disinfecting their chair when they come back. But restrooms, we're looking to do something like with the ionizer guns. That's simple. It's fast and it dries quick, and we can do it easily. So that's kind of one of our thoughts for high contact areas.
Anyone else on disinfectant?
I have a question. My name is Greg Kreiner. I'm from Kingston, Pennsylvania. The CDC guidelines say that as soon as somebody touches something, that it's infected again, especially hard plastic, metal, or anything like that. So I'm trying to figure out how we're going to be able to disinfect fast enough picnic tables, lounge chairs, everything like that.
Yeah, that's a good question. And that makes me think, is that our responsibility as a facility operator, or do we just put signs up that tell our patrons to do it? It's recommended that you disinfect your own areas and your own stuff. I don't know. I'm just asking. Please, the burden of responsibilities on the patrons. If you're going to use a public facility, that we'll have the sanitizer available, but
right.
So, like I said, kind of like going to the grocery store, they've got the wipes and the sanitizer right when you walk. Do we make that available? Put little hand sanitizer pumps out on all the picnic tables, or however we're going to do that.
Okay.
Todd, can I jump in for a second?
Yep.
Hey, it's Julie from Chambersburg. Hi, everyone. So somewhat timely, our borough manager is asking some of these questions via email and suggesting that if we open, and that's a strong if, how are we going to police all these things, and can we make people shower, and what about their bags, and all of these things that, in my opinion, if we're going to open a facility, I don't know how you police it much more than we already do or can. And just like you said, how much ownership should technically be placed on the patrons entering the facility?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually, on my list, I had who's responsible for maintaining social distancing. I mean, are you going to have lifeguards social distancing in addition to everything else, or how is that going to work? I do believe that as a facility operator, we have some burden to at least say, hey, when we opened, everything was sanitized, but how does that work throughout the day, and what guidelines? I mean, I don't know, do we follow the same guidelines as like a gym or other recreational facilities, that everything's sanitized overnight, and then when we open, it's sanitized, and we'll provide as much as we can? I don't know. Again, this is all new territory for all of us. I don't know if anybody else has feedback on that.
Hey, Todd, can I hop in here?
Yeah.
Yes, this is Ken Brewster. I'm the Aquatics Director of the Greater Scranton YMCA. And I think a lot of what we're going to have to do is kind of thinking outside the box, obviously. But, taking almost an engineering practice and control look at things. Obviously the burden of responsibility is going to fall on the membership because there are a lot of them that are coming into our facility. But as the operators, what are some things that we could do to lessen that impact? Things like maybe not having all the furniture and all the loungers, depending on the type of facility that you have. Maybe not allowing people to store stuff in their lockers at your facility, at least for that phase 1 or phase 2 opening. And I think our operations are going to look a lot different than what most of us are used to. But this whole situation in our country is going to, I don't know if there's going to be a new normal. I mean, I know there is going to be a new normal, and things will not go back to the way they used to. Programming, swim lessons. What are we doing in those situations too? I think are some of the big questions. And then how do you even handle? Let's say we're open, and then we have a member or a staff member that tests positive. How are we handling that? Are we shutting down the facility to disinfect everything? So there'll be a lot of starts and stops. But I think, aquatics, as it's been looked at for a lot of years, is not going to be the same, going forward, for at minimum, 5 years after this.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. Is this COVID-19 outbreak a complete outlier, and a once in a lifetime thing, or is this just the first outbreak that we're having? And now that the groundwork has been laid for all these protocols, that 2 years from now we'll have another one, 5 years after that we'll have another one, and like you said, what changes are we going to make overall? I'll tell you one thing, it'll be a lot easier to convince my guards to use their personal protective equipment when they're doing stuff now. Everybody's using gloves and masks and all that. So I'm reading through the chat as we go, but yeah, go ahead, Dan.
I wanted to add that, my daughter does horseback riding, and whenever you go to a barn, there is a big sign, plain as day, about your responsibility as someone who's participating in the activity and what you give up as far as your rights, and because you're here, you recognize it's a dangerous activity and things can happen. And I don't know if it's just for horses or whatever, but it seems like that might be an avenue for pools also, or other public facilities going forward in the future, that, there is some, you guys are going to do what you can, but there is some risk that you're going to take that's just unavoidable. So that's my 2 cents.
Right. Yeah, and it's like, every time I've stayed at a hotel with a pool, there's no lifeguard there. There's just a big sign that says swim at your own risk. And honestly, there may be people that are your regular patrons that might not come to your pool anyways. They may choose to stay home. I think there's going to be a really wide array of responses to this. My hope is that at some point, the CDC has said, swimming is safe so long as steps are taken to reduce the spread of COVID-19. The CDC has come out and said that, but they haven't really given guidelines on what the best way to do that is. And hopefully at some point we'll all have a little better guidance, whether it's from the government or the CDC or somebody that says, okay, you can open your pool, but here are the steps that should be taken. We all need to protect ourselves from the liability risk too. So I know, who else has had thoughts on this?
Hey, Todd, I got a real quick follow-up from what Ken said from Scranton. So are we going, are we going to go as far as temperature checking all of our staff every day, like they are recommending for, essential businesses? And the flip side of that is, let's say you have yourself staffed appropriately, you temperature check, and you have to send 4 people home, or they come in that mid shift. How does that affect our ratios to patron to guards? And does that mean, we're shutting the pool down in the middle of the day because half the staff that I had coming in on second shift, we couldn't bring them in because of temperature? So I think that's a follow up on what Ken was saying. What is going to be the new normal, and how do we protect our staff as well as the patrons? And I don't have an answer for it, but that's just a thought to throw out there.
Yeah, and that's good. And that actually has come up not this year, but in previous years with the lifeguard shortage. We've had a number of facilities that if they can't get adequate guard coverage, they're looking at only a partial opening. You put a lane rope in and only this half the pool is open, or this water slide's closed today, or the diving boards are closed, whatever it is, but you have a plan in place for short staff. Now, of course, then your patrons are going to say, well, I want a refund. I should get refunded my season pool pass, whatever it is. You know, but it comes back to educating your patrons that our number one goal is safety. How are we going to respond to that? Good. Who else?
I had some thoughts, just trying to think forward about if and when we open. The limiting those number of chairs on the deck so that there's no, you know, no patrons are sitting on the chairs and stuff. You know, I don't know about features, and I don't know if this is true. Like, I'm thinking about splash pads and the water slides, and we have a pirate ship feature with the sprays. I don't think those should be open. And I know that, you know, properly chlorinated water in splash pads is safe and that the coronavirus cannot live in that situation. But take our pirate ship where the little kids are climbing on it and you can't distance them, and the surfaces that they're touching are not able to be disinfected every time, and whether the chlorine is getting to that area or not. And does that splash up aspirate the droplets into the water and out in the surface or out into the air if it's not properly chlorinated at that exact moment. So I'm not opening any of my features if we open until we're into whatever that phase 3 is or what have you. But for guards, you know, I thought if we're going to have to open, if we're forced to open, that one of the things is bag, valve, mask only, CPR. And when you get that victim out of the water, everybody puts on a face shield, and as well as their proper PPE that they already wear. So that's going to involve more training of the guards. And then, like Kevin, some other people brought up about the staff, if your staff gets sick. I haven't even gotten that far into my plan, and I just don't, it's overwhelming me.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. And a bunch of people are asking in a similar vein with the water features and splashing and all that, how do you do a swim lesson class? I mean, those kids are, you know, often face to face with an instructor. I also think of swim team, those kids are like spawning salmon in the pool when they're all swimming. There was a really good idea by Jessica here on the chat about doing a family-oriented swim lesson. We actually have done this the last 2 years at our pool called Big Fish, Little Fish. And what we do is the instructor's on the deck and the parent is in the water with the kid. And the instructor on the deck teaches the parent how to teach their child how to swim. We did it as an adaptive or a family-oriented swimming lesson, very similar to if any of you are working with other sports programs, Smart Start program, where the parent is actually, they have it for football, golf, soccer, but the parent is actually teaching their own child under the guidance of an instructor. And that might be an option for swim lessons too, is the parents in the water with the child, your instructor's on deck, and the class is spread out enough that you can run a class that way. So, yeah, another question about swim team. Again, even if the pool's open, I feel like swim team is the least socially distanced activity we have at our pools. Just, you know, we seem to cram as many kids as possible in the pool for that. So I'm still waiting to see what we're going to do with that. But anything else about any of that? Yes, Ken, unmute.
I think, you know, in the coming days, a lot of us are going to have to look at what programs we offer and, you know, think, is there really a safe way of offering this program? And I know, you know, we're all under the pressures from our organizations to, you know, get us back to normal as soon as possible. But I think realistically, you know, certain programs, you know, I think of, you know, first to the top of my mind, swim team and swim lessons may not be able to be immediately offered in an aquatic scenario in the foreseeable future, just because of, you know, how many accommodations you're going to have to make to try to make that work and try to make that safe. But then the burden of, you know, if somebody does get sick, you know, it's whether it be a staff member or a member, is that really worth, you know, the money we'll make off of that swim lesson or that sign up that we'll make for swim team? And I think, you know, it's a really hard question. A lot of us don't want to ask, or we're being asked by our CEOs or, you know, our branch execs, you know, but I think, you know, being kind of strong and taking the stance of, you know, this isn't safe, we can't do this. is the tough decision, that a lot
Yep.
of us are gonna have to make in the next coming days.
Educating the public, again, whatever you decide, just getting that education piece out there, I think is going to be important for all of us. So I want to keep things moving a little bit here. One of the things I did want to ask everyone, it sounds like a lot of us are still somewhat unsure of exactly what the summer is going to look like. What does your membership look like? Are you doing refunds for people for if you canceled altogether, or are you partially canceled? How are you handling cancellations, refunds, rescheduling, and all of that?
Todd, if people want a refund, we're just going to issue the refund and kind of waive some of any penalties or fees we might have attached. We think it's the right thing to do, but I will say, and I kind of put it in the chat, most of the calls I get are people are asking, is the pool going to be open? Is it open? We really want it to be open. I mean, the people, we're looking at two different things. My manager and I were talking. People may not be going to Disney World this summer. They may not be going on those big, expensive vacations. And Parks and Rec might be the only outlet for families to do something. Now, granted, it puts us in a tough spot because we don't want to be the ones who spawn the second wave of anything. But how do we balance providing that recreational opportunity and that social and physical activities that we all, that's what we do. But refunds, if people want them, we're giving them. Our memberships are down, just, obviously, but they're still coming in. So, people have hope that the pool may be the shining light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, we're in kind of the same boat. We have an early bird special. We start selling December 1st. And you can get a discount if you purchase before like April 30th. And so a lot of people got them as Christmas and things like that. But I mean, there are some people, again, lifelong members that they just want a refund. They know that even if we open, they don't want to go. So they want their money back. Hey, that's fine. We've changed, like you said, we got rid of all of our penalties and all of that. We're just offering it back. Everyone else, if we open, let's say we open July 1st, we're going to give them a partial refund for the partial part of the summer that was lost. So, who else?
I'm not getting any requests for refunds. Everyone who's calling, though, is asking, if you don't open, will I get a refund? And my answer, of course, is 100%. But I have people calling every day that like Andy, people want us to open no matter what. And I don't know that they're going to ask for a credit or anything, even if we open late. I think they're going to be so grateful that we open that they're going to be willing to pay the full season price, even if they get a month of time at the pool. I mean, that's just the impression I'm getting from families.
Yeah. Well, Andrew had a good point. A lot of families are probably not going to go on vacation, whether they're, financially strapped from losing their jobs or whatever it is, that your local Parks and Rec might be the best outlet. One of the things we're looking at doing is possibly doing credits on everyone's account rather than refunds. So we can at least have a little bit of money in for the year and not struggle as much with our overall department budget. But we'll have to see how that looks as we keep going. Anyone else on memberships, refunds, cancellations? Is anybody looking at extending their pool season, maybe in weekends in the fall or anything like that?
I'm looking into that, is grabbing a couple of those extra nice weekends in September to try to offset maybe the couple weekends we lost at the front end. Weather's typically nice in our part of the world here into September. And as long as I have some guards available, if it's weekends only, I should still have a decent amount of staff. So yeah, I'm definitely investigating that.
Yeah, hopefully the weather's good in September. before we, like I said, I'm going to try to wrap everything up before 11 o'clock. Before we do, I do want to offer 2 resources to everyone that I've found to be very helpful through all of this. One is there's a Facebook group called, and Kristen, I'll have to look it up here quick. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's Aquatic Directors and Managers. There's a Facebook group called Aquatic Directors and Managers that have had a lot of, there's been a lot of, every day there's 4 or 5 posts on this stuff. There's been a lot of really good information on there. There's also the aquaticcouncil.com, and here I'll type that into the chat. Aquaticcouncil.com. They have had a lot of links to things. They've got a link to the CDC. They've got a link to a lot of the government pages. And that's been a really good resource for keeping up on a lot of this stuff too. So good. Does anyone else have any other questions just on COVID-19 in general? Again, procedures you're doing, maintenance questions, programming, lifeguard training, lifeguard hiring. We did talk about certification extensions and cancellations and refunds. Going once, going twice. Oh, here's
I just thought of something, Todd.
Go ahead.
One thing that came up was, is insurance affected putting our guards in this high risk category relating to COVID, being first responders? You know, if we do open, how does that affect insurance? And I want to put that out there in case anybody has contacted their insurance companies and found out anything more regarding that scenario.
That's a really good question. And in addition to that, should our lifeguards be getting hazard pay if they are out there interacting with the public in such a robust manner at the pools? I know the question, we actually are, a lot of places are planning to file an insurance claim on lost revenue because of COVID. But in our agency, that's the only conversation we've had with the insurance company. Has anyone else gotten any information about the position we're putting our lifeguards in?
One of the comments I'll make is, remember, they're minors. That could be a major issue. If they're over 18, maybe they can make their own decisions, but I don't know. That's a tough call.
So I think the big picture is that there's going to be a lot of fear coming from our minors who are staffed and also coming from their parents. You know, there's a lot of talk about parental fear and the fear that anybody could have in a first responder type of situation. But you're right, the point that these guys, a lot of them are minors. Yeah, it makes a big difference.
The fact is, we don't know anything yet.
Yeah.
We're still playing the waiting game, and we keep asking questions, but we don't have any answers yet. That's my biggest problem.
Yeah. I have old TV. You had your hand up. Yeah, unmute yourself.
Yeah, I did speak with our insurance provider about liability, and they're looking into it. But the one thing they did say is if we cut our season and we don't open or open only a small part, we can save some money on liability insurance and workers' comp, a small, you know, I don't know, like $10,000. But it's something that helps the bottom line. But they didn't really have any input with regard to what it would do. They didn't think if the local departments of health allow us to open, they did not see a liability issue because it's the local departments of health think that it's safe. That being said, there was some chatter on the pool operators Facebook page about screening at the front gate and then making assumptions based on that. And it would be the normal stuff, like if you go into a doctor's office, they take your temperature and they ask you the questions. And then, you know, of course, it doesn't catch any of the non-symptomatic people, and you can still have people lie and do whatever the heck they're going to do. But they actually recommended that. Until you get to phase 3, there was something on the other day. It was a very long video. If you clip in at minute 30 and watch the rest of it, that was the recommendation, was to get one of those thermometer things and screen everybody and ask the questions. And then from that point, you make some assumptions that the bulk of the people coming in are safe, which is a big assumption.
Yeah.
Kate D, you had started to say something. Did you have more stuff to say? And I love your dogs, by the way.
Thank you. I'm actually from New Jersey, and I run our summer camp as well. And we had gone to ACA's Tri-State Camp Conference in early March, right before this kind of went all crazy. And we attended a session about insurance and how it relates to closures. And a couple of the insurance companies for the summer camps had said that, you know, there is such thing as a pandemic or an outbreak rider that you can add to your insurance policy, but that most places don't have that on their insurance policy already, and therefore you're not allowed to add it. So you have to kind of check in with your insurance company to see if that's already on your policy, and then they'll be able to help you with lost wages, lost revenue, you know, all that fun stuff on top of it. But I don't know how that would apply for pools, but for summer camps, they were definitely all about that.
Yeah. Hey, there's a couple really good questions that come on. If it comes to the point where we need to really limit the number of patrons in the pool, how do you go about doing it? Do you do season pass holders only? Do you have a bouncer out front like at a bar with a number counter? How are we going to do this?
And you're going to do it with a 16-year-old lifeguard.
Yeah, right. No, Jim, that's you.
Yeah.
I've seen some pools in parts of Florida when I used to work down there that they had certain hours, like you'd sign up for, you know, this hour and 15-minute block to come into the pool. Then they would clear the entire pool, and then the people that signed up for the next hour and 15-minute block would come into the pool. And that was kind of how they controlled it, because it was a smaller facility. You know, so something kind of based on that may work. There's a lot of online, you know, registration tools you could possibly use. But really it comes down to how are you communicating this to your existing membership, or, you know, depending on what community you serve, how are you communicating this out? So that way we don't end up with that, you know, 1,000 people at the front gate the first day we open, and it becomes a whole non-socially distanced mess. Yeah, exactly.
Or people, standing outside of the gates waiting to get in. My first phase is 45 minutes swim time sign up with 15 minutes stop every hour to clean. That's how I have it theoretically timed.
And I missed that, Patty. Was that first come, first serve, or was that on a sign up?
So it would be you sign up for a 45-minute session, and I have an activity pool, a leisure pool, and a lap pool. And so I have 8 lanes. I thought 8 lap swimmers and up to 10, or actually up to 8 safely can be in my activity pool 12 feet apart, so 6 feet on each side. Mm-hmm. And you know, like water walking for 45 minutes, in what direction? Everybody has to go the same direction. So that would be like an assigned day and time. And then, you know, after that 45 minutes, they all leave, and then the 15 minutes are wiping down any common surfaces. And like I said, I'm not opening up any of my features. And then the next wave can come in, but it has to be signed up by who's coming so that there's not a line outside waiting to get in.
I have a question.
If I could pop in here. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, the only question I was going to ask is, we're going to disclose all of this information procedure before people sign up, because I see this, if we don't, they're going to be furious. Doesn't matter what we do, they'll be upset that they can't come for the period of time they want to come for. So I see a lot of refunds if we don't disclose it. You know,
I see a lot of refunds anyway.
Yeah, well, that's probably true.
Yeah. I think that was the point I was going to speak to. A comment made in the chat spoke to, how does that affect your fees if you're limiting somebody to a 45-minute window? Is it appropriate for them to pay for a membership? Is it appropriate for them to even pay a full daily rate? You know, it really does affect the cost to go to your pool then.
So the mean business person in me says, you leave your fees exactly where they are, and the people that want to swim will come and swim. And the people who want to come and swim don't have to. It's their choice whether they want to pay the money for that or not.
Yeah.
I don't know how realistic that attitude is, but.
A question I have is, how do you limit them going in the locker room?
That's got to be personal responsibility. You can't.
Yeah. Kind of goes back to the whole thing we said about just the personal responsibility of all of your patrons to begin with. You know, where does that line lie between the responsibility of the facility to offer a safe space and the responsibility of your patrons to take care of themselves as well?
It's like choosing to go into a grocery store, you know, one that has single aisles or one that has two direction aisles, and one that stocks sanitizer and one that doesn't. And it's a choice.
Yeah.
And you have to wear a face mask.
Yep.
While you're swimming. One of the chat things that came up a while ago was, will you offer a specific time for high-risk patrons to be apart from the rest of the general population?
Oh, man.
Almost all my patrons are old and high risk.
Yeah, we have a high proportion of seniors as well, and they come every single day and they stay all day in a coffee clutch. So they never social distance. I don't think they will now either.
Right.
So real quick, a question came through about whether we will be holding another Zoom like this in 2 weeks. And so I'll ask either Dan or Nikki to confirm. We were talking about trying to do a Zoom like this about every 2 weeks. PRPS.org will have training information. Nikki, if you want to chime in on that.
Yeah, sorry, I disappeared for a while. My internet had stopped for a while. Yes, absolutely. We will do this in about another 2 weeks. We do not have it scheduled yet. I will work with Todd and Kristen and any of the other PRPS members to schedule that. It'll be on our website. Right now, our rooms only hold 100 people, and we did have, we met capacity. So we're going to look into holding more people because we want to make sure we can provide that service. On top of that, again, if you didn't put your name and email address in the chat box, please do. It's going to take some time, but we will transcribe the chat box into a format. We will send that and the recording to everyone who gives us their email address. And once we schedule the next roundtable, we will include that information with the Zoom information, including the password. So everyone will be able to have that access to the next meeting.
Good. I see all the emails are coming through
Fantastic.
now.
We love it. We love it when they're in blocks. It makes it easier for the processing.
Good. We're actually going to wrap this meeting up because I know a number of people are going to have other Zoom meetings here at 11 o'clock. I'll stay on for like 5 minutes or so if anybody else has to put more things in the chat or ask other questions. I do want to leave everybody in 2 weeks. We're going to try to get an update on all of this. It seems like every day is a moving target. So in a couple of weeks, we'll get back together, see where everybody's at on all the stuff we hit today. We can also get into how you're finding lifeguards, how you're getting work permits for your under 18 kids. And I'll ask this, I'll throw a controversial statement out to finish. Elevated lifeguard stand versus roving guard. I would argue that an elevated lifeguard stand has been shown to provide better visual coverage of your pool, and it's easier to spot swimmers in need. However, it's also conducive, if your heart rate drops, it's conducive towards guards not paying as good attention because they get a little too comfortable in the chair, versus a roving guard, heart rate is elevated, they pay better attention, but they can't see as well. So how do you balance the roving guard versus the elevated? No comments today. We'll get into that.
Both.
That's your home.
We do both.
Combo.
Combo.
If I could, I have one last question. PRPS, for one of our other roundtables, together a Google Doc that some of the questions that came up from the roundtable were included in the Google Doc, and it allowed people to upload their information. If they're opening their pools, if they're delaying, what sanitation processes, stuff like that. Now, obviously, it was specific to summer camp. Would it be helpful if we went for aquatics where you could access it, put that information up, and as we think things are changing, people could check that information and see, great, put a thumbs up like Todd did, or just say yes in the chat box to some kind of Google Doc. We'll make that available as well. But essentially, it just gives you an opportunity, again, like these roundtables, to see what other agencies are doing. You know, you can input your information. We'll be able to ask additional questions on there as well. You don't have to be just from Pennsylvania. We will make this available to everyone, because our goal is to make sure that all Parks and Rec departments, all swimming pools, all facilities have the best information they can. So if you want that, we'll put it together. It'll just take a few days, and we'll share it with everyone on the email list as well.
Hey, Nikki, that's a great idea because a lot of us are using that information to either, you know, sway our boards or commissions. A lot of the questions they're asking is, what is everybody else doing, or what are the townships or communities near us doing? I've already compiled a list for the Bucksmont area of what I have, and it's been very helpful to say, here's what we're doing. We're in line with everybody else. So I think that's great, and if everybody can add to it and we can access it, it'll help a lot of us make our case.
Fantastic. We will make sure we work on that and get that out as soon as possible, because we know these decisions are being made. I see some information was shared from Kate about a Google Doc that they're putting together. So all that information is great. Anything you want to share with me, I'll put my email address in the chat box. It can be found on our website, but thank you all for participating. It was fantastic to hear all that information. Thank you, Todd and Kristen. We appreciate your expertise and everyone else on the call. So thank you so much